Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Nerds Hour.
You are now listening to Nerds Amateur Hour. Please, allow me to show you something. Let's get to work.
Alright, everyone, so we're going to do a Robert Pattinson movie, which is a movie from A24. However, the themes are a little less than ideal.
Yeah.
I think that's what we can say.
Yeah. I'm Nathaniel, by the way.
And I'm Noah Sweeto.
Nathaniel Shoemaker.
And we're going to be reviewing High Life in this episode, which,
I wished I was high while watching this guy's live.
yeah, the movie itself is not so high in regard of its nature. There's a lot of... No.
Again, I pointed to this before. I've pointed to this in the past as an example of why Robert Pattison is a good actor. He is good in this film. That
Yes.
has not changed.
Robert Pattinson is amazing. However, there's material that is less than ideal.
Yeah.
So, I don't even kind of know where to start with this.
Me neither.
Take
Spoilers for it, of course.
Yeah,
but
Clockwork Orange. Take that and the sexual nature of all the heinous things, and then mash them up into
space.
space. Yeah, in a prison, a space prison.
Well, and it's like part of it's that, and then part of it's like also him being a dad, and I'm like, okay.
It's about like fatherhood.
Yeah.
With rapey.
It does not have the
Stuff.
greatest context as to how he became a
No.
father.
Hence why it may be fresh for a new take with 82% and certified fresh on Rotten Tomatoes. However, with 233 views versus the over 1,000 that gave it 41% for obvious reasons once you see this movie.
Yeah.
Don't let that hinder you, though, unless
I mean,
you are really one of those people who does not want to see. So if you're somebody...
Yeah, it's just... Yeah, and maybe it is for some people, and maybe they can see, like, the symbolism of all this stuff. Just for me, though, it made me very uncomfortable, and it's just not a movie for me, personally.
It was it was almost like what I want to say, and I hate throwing that word around, but it was almost like a rape fantasy movie to me.
It's very weird. It's very weird. Visually, it's stunning.
Visually, this movie, like, their budget, their set design... it was great, and for that I like it, but it was just really the
Everyone's so, like...
inappropriate, unconsensual.
Everyone seems like they're, in this movie, all the characters, they all seem very... Excluded from Pattinson himself and the daughter, they all seem very, like, charged sexually. And it's something I'm not really comfortable with at all.
And I mean, there's no problem with having characters in a sex-positive movie. It's all about how you approach it, and this approached it in a because it's a prison, implicate a lot of rape and a lot of...
Which would be realistic, to be fair. But,
yeah, but we don't
I don't want to see it.
I
don't want to see it as the thing. And again, maybe it's just a movie not for us. Who knows?
It's not something I want to sit and think about, as it's the same with, I think, a Siberian film from the little bit I've seen with it. Yeah. Just less gore snuff style, even though surprisingly that wasn't a snuff movie. Supposedly is what people tell me in that horror group that I'm in, but I don't really believe it.
Me neither. Some people are like, no, it's movie magic. I don't.
No, I think when it comes to infant children,
no.
So,
but
this was directed by a French woman who's 74, so she would have been like, what, 60-something when this came out. Mm-hmm. Claire Denis. Not really any more notable works that were here in America, really, that I see.
Yeah, and it's weird, like, maybe it's stereotyping or maybe it's factual, but when you said French woman directed it, I was like, oh!
It makes a lot more sense, and yeah.
Well, because the French and, like, other countries in general, they are more comfortable with sex than Americans are, just as a topic.
Well, that's because also Americans have to pussyfoot around everything, because we are a culture that can't accept things that aren't heavily censored, but we want to project other things that shouldn't be projected in the way they're projected.
Exactly.
But diving into depth with this movie, into some of its brighter elements, is that I like what they did with the prisoners in space concept and how they basically had them go on an adventure. And it's kind of like, I'm trying to think of what movie. It's the 100. When they send a group of teenagers down and they have to report daily, or otherwise they get cut off from life support. This is kind of the same aspect. So everybody had kind of a role to play. So it almost gives you like the original Alien type feel. If you guys,
crew, like very close knit.
Yeah, and everybody has a specific duty, so it gives you a Nostromo feel. Everybody's got a day-to-day.
Y'all got to
24/7.
Keep up exercise, all that stuff.
Yeah, in which Robert Pattinson, I think, is the most tame just of the entire cast. He is the most tame. He's kind of just the, yes, I'm here, I may have done something heinous, or whatever. It's not really revealed to the end.
Well, and he mentions the fact that he's adapted a monk lifestyle of like no sex, nothing, and because he thinks doing that suppresses like whatever possible bad thing he could do. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's about not giving in to temptation.
Yeah,
and then having that lead to more bad things again, which is
it's interesting because literally every other character in this movie do give in to temptation, and it's not good. Yeah,
and to give this kind of an idea, which is interesting, and I'm surprised they haven't really done it. Mm-hmm. Basically, what you can call this thing is a sex box. It basically gives your greatest fantasies and illusions, and gives you the pleasure stimulation, and then squirts that's probably not the right word.
Yeah, thanks for that. Thank you.
It hoses down any messes that have been left behind by the other person.
It like washing machine cleans it.
Yeah, so it takes out like a sanitizer, sprays the whole room down, and takes care of it, which is still very uncleanly. As the main woman who's basically running this has like a fantasy of being on top of a bear. And
is it a bear? Yeah, it's some furry animal. It's not a person.
And it has like a tentacle, and from what I remember, it was very
and you guys might have noticed at this point this is going to be a
society type episode.
Yeah, where we don't because in society we kind of talk about it. No, I'm talking about like as far as format for the show.
Yeah, we're not going to go be doing this.
I don't want to.
No,
there's a part where a dude tries to rape someone, and there's like psychological stuff, and like just like we'd be saying the word boob too much. Essentially,
it's a very not even sex positive, just a very sex driven film.
Yeah. None of the sex that occurs in this movie is positive in any way.
If you guys know what the movie Nymphomaniac is, that was better done and more consensual.
Yeah.
And they had porn doubles basically.
Yeah.
So, but if you guys do want to check this out for yourselves, if you don't own it.
Yeah. Because again, Pattinson's performance is good.
It's worth seeing. It's just something you need to be very mindful of going in. That it does have a lot of strong themes, and if you're somebody like me who's had a past, which I have no shame in saying, where you've had that kind of abuse done to you, it can be very triggering for anybody who's survived that. So just be very wary that there is a lot of that, and it's not just one scene. And the scenes it's
majority of the film.
Yeah, it's a majority of the film, and it is very much a big theme in a very prolonged sequences.
Mm-hmm.
So, if you would like to check this out for yourselves and just see it for Robert Pattinson's performance, otherwise there are plenty of other movies you can still see him in, from The Lighthouse to Damsel, etc. You can watch High Life on Amazon Prime with your Prime subscription. You can also rent it for $3.99 on YouTube, Google Play Movies and TV, and Apple TV Plus, and $4.99 on Vudu, which is really steep.
Yeah,
I would not say personally that this movie was worth $3.99. Like I said,
for rental. You own it, so yeah.
I got it for $2 though.
Oh, that's
at a pawn shop.
Ah, All right.
And the trailer does not make it, and that's something
The
you need
trailer, the trailer does not, like, none of this is showcased. I was like, oh, cool, a sci-fi movie with a garden.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure they did it on purpose, which is something that I was very displeased about.
That's scuzzy. That is scuzzy.
It was very misleading, and for that, shame on you guys, because that wasn't okay.
Yeah, getting people in the seats is not, like...
No, and you needed to make people aware that what you were going for was going to be powerful, whether it was rated R or not, and I don't have the case by me, but I'll look that up.
It was definitely rated R.
Yeah. Because even the description for this is Monte and his baby daughter are the last survivors of a damned and dangerous mission to the outer reaches of the solar system. They must now rely on each other to survive as they hurtle toward the oblivion of a black hole. And the trailer makes it out to be like this father and daughter kind of adventure.
Yeah, but that's like a few minutes of the movie.
That is literally a few minutes of the movie. And shame on you guys, really. And
sincerely, I would have rather been prepared for this, and I'm sure you would have too.
And A24
did
this
9 times out of 10. Solid movies.
Yeah,
very solid.
This was just very unforgivable, and we're not going to badmouth the entire movie because there is quite a bit of good in it with some better symbolism that is depressing, but also more realistic.
Fair. Yeah.
But yeah, shame on you guys. That not okay. It's like Hereditary right off the bat. You knew Hereditary and Midsummer, The Witch, and The Lighthouse were going to be something that was
disturbing, creepy.
For. Yeah. So this was not okay to advertise this as something that it was clearly not.
Yeah.
And a majority of it. So with, like I said, 41% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It was definitely a bunch of people like us who saw it and were like, "What the fuck? This doesn't look like what I."
And 66% of Google users like this, and it's the only time I can agree with IMDb. While the idea is there, and I do appreciate the adventure aspect and the more human element of what could happen during an adventure kind of like this.
Yeah.
It is definitely one of those things that, without giving the proper warning, it does stand at a 5.8 personally for me because of the fact that I went in there and there was so much of the type of content that we were talking about.
If you knew about it, your score would be different.
It would be a 4.2 out of 10 for me because of that. Between what the plot was advertised to be and...
No, I'm saying if it was advertised as what it actually was.
Oh, yeah. Then I would say I'll give this a chance and it'd probably have a higher score. Alas, with the original idea and the nature of humans, as I do understand that the movie was trying to explain and I mean,
that's the thing with me in movies, though. Like, the reason I watch them is because I'm aware humans are fucked up. I don't want to see it.
But you know,
you know what I mean.
And I want to compare to a second because Alien 3 is infamous for that. I would say not just for being a poor, shitty, non-right directional sequel, but there is that infamous Ripley rape scene, which did not need to be in there.
I'm good. Yep, no.
We did not need to take a very powerful woman and
do that
to her. No, and we didn't need the man who needed to save her. You could have achieved the same effect without that. But that is something that, while Alien 3 did, there is also a lot to take out of that being a prison space drama.
Yeah.
As it did do itself justice in making itself more about a sci-fi exploration and taking Ripley's grief and, other struggles full circle.
You're right.
And it did it very well. That is what I wanted to see for the majority of this movie, like Alien 3. And they did not do that. They did not deliver. However, the more sci-fi aspect and the more interesting elements of this film only came at the end of the film.
Right.
Which was incredibly disappointing.
Yeah.
And I was very upset because the idea of kind of having like a 100 scenario but in a reverse way was very entertaining because what we got for those of you, because we've explained what the 100 is everybody has a job, and one of the people on this station in High Life, their job is solely to report the day-to-day, any changes with people, what they saw, how the plants are growing. So basically they give a whole essay on and page of what happened, who did what.
Yep.
So very Nostromo.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is, unlike the Nostromo, which might as well be, they basically will cut off any communication if they miss one day.
Yeah.
Or they will cut off a part of their food supply. And on a side
Their
note,
oxygen.
Yeah. And on a side note, did you remember that Charles Dance was in Alien 3 as Clemens?
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
Mm-hmm.
So that was cool.
Like we're talking about a movie that is still bad, but we both think better than this.
Well, because oh god, that movie was 2 hours and 25 minutes. Yikes. Yeah. Well, the reason I want to compare these so closely is because it is a perfect example.
Space prison.
Yeah, it's a perfect example of what can work.
Yep.
And what can't. And I feel like that movie Lockdown that takes place in a space prison that I haven't seen yet.
Oh yeah, that one's great. I enjoyed it. It's not like it doesn't have like a story, but it's like, it's an action movie.
It's action. It gives you a plot to work with, and it progresses it.
And shoot. Yeah.
And that's basically what Guns Akimbo is. It has a story, but it's a subplot.
Guns Akimbo also looks just batshit. That's why
it is great though.
It's cool. All right.
The low ratings are BS.
Okay.
But yeah. Basically, it's a very neat concept. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Towards the very end, because in the beginning, I'd say about the middle, kind of nearing the middle of the movie, is basically the woman who is
doctor.
The doctor who's very shady.
Nope.
Basically has sex with Robert Pattinson until he gets him to splooge.
Yeah, while he's sleeping, by the way. Not cool.
So, again,
really gross.
He's been practicing and refuses to use the pleasure box, is what we're just going to call it. Fantasy box.
He hasn't jismed in a while.
Yeah. While he's trying to practice his monk style, which is very admirable, that he's done something and he's trying to be a better person. She takes advantage of him in his sleep, and then basically douches it out, and then collects it in a baster
and puts it in a girl.
Yeah, whose name is Willow.
Yeah.
And she had a rape attempt by one guy into which Robert Pattinson everybody basically kills and beats the shit out of.
Yeah.
He got his just due.
Well, he got shanked by the one girl, yeah.
Yeah. So
but she thought that kid was...
Yeah, so she's played by Mia Goth. Her name was Boyce.
Yeah.
And I believe Mia Goth was in A Cure for Wellness. Yeah, she was the girl in A Cure for Wellness.
Oh.
And she also got cast in Suspiria, the remake of that, the reimagining of that, and then Marrowbone in The Survivalist. She was also a nymphomaniac as, I believe, the main antagonists or protagonists, other in part 2.
Yeah.
And then she also was in The Devil All the Time, which also stars Robert Pattinson.
Devil All the Time, yeah. I haven't checked that one out yet.
No, not yet, and I would love to do a review of it. It has Tom Holland and
Mia Goth, right?
As Mia Goth, Tom Holland, and Robert Pattinson with...
Well, I know, I'm just checking the person's name.
Yeah.
Huh, she was... I didn't even know she was with Shia LaBeouf at a point.
Yeah. Huh. That was the fallout that they were talking about, that supposedly he was...
He was not okay with High Life, or what?
No, some ex of his accused him of rape and a bunch of other stuff. So
Ah.
you guys can research that on your own
Yeah,
time.
yeah, we're not going to get involved with that. That's yeah, no.
We're not my talk.
No.
But I kind of don't. The thing that I was very excited to see Mia Goth in this. I did not like how her character was again more of a sexual victim. As spoilers for Cure for Wellness, very great movie. The end was a bit shit, so you might want to cover your ears. But it turns out that there's a lot of incestuous implications, and she's basically a rape victim in there as well. You can knock for your ears now. So there was also that. And I kind of didn't like seeing her in that kind of position again.
I wanted her to be powerful.
Yeah, I didn't need to see her twice being the victim at the hands of the man, so that was...
Or even under the impression that she was.
Yeah, she's a very great actress, very beautiful, and can play a really shy, quiet character when she needs to, and I would love to see her in something where she can really embrace and go all out. And I'd almost love to see her in a vigilante type movie, because we got that movie Anna, which was like an indie John Wick.
Yeah, which is now it's not the same people, but they're going off the same story. It's a Amazon Prime show.
Oh, are they?
It's already out.
The one that just came out in 2018?
Oh, Anna. Oh,
not Hannah.
I'm thinking of Hannah, not Anna. Never mind.
No, Anna. So
I'm trying to think of what Anna is then. I don't know if I know Anna. I'll look it up. But okay.
It's like a female version John Wick. It's great. And then they recently released this indie movie called Ava at the time that we are recording this, but it was a movie called Ava with Jessica Chastain in the role and Colin Farrell, which I'm not really a Colin Farrell fan.
Yeah? No?
He's just in too much.
Okay.
There's just something about him. I'm not bad-mouthing him in any way. I just don't see the appeal that everybody has for him.
Okay.
That's fine. He's like, I feel like every time I see him, the one movie I do want to see him in that looked really good, was The Lobster.
Oh, yeah.
That looked good. And maybe it's because subconsciously...
It's so weird. It's a weird film, but...
Yeah, I mean, he's like in everything. He was in the shitty 2012 Total Recall remake. And he's in Fantastic Beasts, Horrible Bosses. I do want to see him in The Killing of a Sacred Deer. That looks really good, too. It's a very serious-looking film. I was okay with seeing him in Saving Mr. Banks. And then he was also in that Fright Night remake.
Oh, he's great in that.
So, well, if you say it, then I'll definitely give him a chance.
Thanks. Glad my words have value somewhere. I'm kidding.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it a chance if you'd say he was good in that.
Yeah,
but
I liked him.
I just feel like all of a sudden he just pops up in these big name movies, and it's like, pick someone else.
Well, because you know the character he plays in the Fright Night.
The neighbor.
Yeah. Oh man, he definitely like watched that movie and was like, "Hold my beer." It's great. Like, he definitely watched the original movie and was like, I know what to do.
Well, as long as it doesn't feel like he's playing himself again, because that more often than not, that's what irritates me. I feel like every time I see him, it's like, oh, Colin Farrell.
Also, there's another movie of his I'm going to look up real quick that you need to see.
Okay.
But let's keep talking about this.
Yeah, Mia Goth in this, I really hope that she gets another big thing. I have not seen Suspiria yet, but I think that's on Prime, too. Yeah, it looks like it. I haven't seen the original. The new one has good reviews, and that came out back in 2018. So, 65% both on critic and audience.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely have to give that a chance and see where that goes. But yeah, she was fantastic in this movie. But she ends up the doctor lady ends up taking the semen while she's sleeping, and inserts it. Basically, rolls her over and puts it in, which is just like, okay, no. And I believe her name is Dibs. Does that sound right?
I think so, yeah. Do you... Just personal question. Do you have Peacock?
Yeah.
Okay, he's in a movie that is on Peacock that you should watch. Colin Farrell. It's called In Bruges.
Okay.
Bruges is Bruges. Definitely check that out.
Okay. I'll add it to my list.
There you go. But you were talking about.
Yeah. You know, and that's something I did not like. You know, that because her character, Mia Goth's character, ends up freaking out and thinking, "Oh God!" Even though she closed her legs and was able to hold them closed, she thinks she got pregnant by the rapist dude, who's a creep this entire movie.
Mm-hmm.
And we have the unfortunate of seeing the actor naked, which just made it that much worse.
Yeah, it's just
And there's, I'm not saying these people are bad in any way. I think what really had a problem is the acting was too good, and I don't like when actors can play that kind of role that well.
Yeah.
It especially when they're not
upsets me.
known.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, it's one thing when you're getting somebody who can play a creepy role and they're well known and they've done that.
Yeah.
It's a whole nother thing when you've really not been in any movies and then all of a sudden, or well-known movies, and then all of a sudden you appear in this and you play a really rapey character.
Yeah.
And it's like...
Nope.
You played that way too well. What's going on here?
Yeah, because there's acting and then there's that.
Yeah, and it's not fun or good at all.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in that aspect, you know, it was really weird. And then Mia Goth's character ends up giving birth a while later to
Willow.
a little girl named Willow.
Adorable. Whoever they cast is that
Scarlett Lindsay.
That's the baby?
Yeah.
Yes. If she ever hears this, she needs to know that when she was a baby, she was adorable.
It looks like she's only been in that one movie, but she does have an Instagram.
No. How old is this kid?
It does not say.
Because I'm talking, of course, about the baby, not when she was a teenager.
Yeah, I know. It does not say. Oh, but she shook little Robert Pattinson. She shook Robert Pattinson's hand on the red carpet.
I got the sense that when he was filming, because it's Robert Pattinson. I got the sense that he, even though they were acting across from each other, he treated it like any other baby.
Yeah, she's got the sweetest little smile too.
Yeah, adorable.
Oh, that's so sweet.
Can you tell at some point in our lives we really want to be dads?
But it's the sweetest thing because she lets him pick her up a lot, so she kind of associated him.
Yeah, she associated him with that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there's like a scene in the movie where she's like feeding him lettuce.
Yeah, really the father-daughter dynamic worked so well in here.
Yeah, because he gets told that it is his daughter, so he like treats it as such, Yeah,
which so great. Kudos to Robert Pattinson. He killed the dad.
Yeah.
If you guys have had the fortune and pleasure and honor of playing The Last of Us,
yeah,
it really felt like a Joel and Ellie, but if
it was biological.
Ellie had been Joel's son or daughter, I mean, or if it had focused on Joel and the apocalypse had happened when Sarah.
Yeah, if his daughter didn't die, this is what this movie is.
I was gonna say spoilers for that, but
it's the game's been out for however freaking
well, she does
long.
die at the very beginning of the game, so
it's not even a few minutes in. No. Like it's not.
But it would have been if Sarah had lived, but had grown up during the apocalypse. And there's something to be said that I really like, because it's something that is not socially acceptable. If you have a male babysitter, the first thing they're going to go is, oh, they might molest the children. You can't tell me that's not what it is. I've always fucking hated that. It's an annoying stereotype.
Yeah.
Men can be left alone with children, and it's been proven that there are a lot of men.
Yeah, there are some. I know some amazing single fathers who go above and beyond for their kids,
and so do I.
Yeah, it needs to be said.
When I lived with my dad, I can't tell you the things that my dad did to make sure we had a roof over our head, and to make sure that I was happy, fed, properly clothed, and getting to school.
Yeah.
So there's no such thing as the mother's better. There's not.
No.
A parent is a parent.
There was a movie that's based on a true story, Will Smith, The Pursuit of Happiness. Did you ever see that?
Yep, and I own it.
Yeah, that is a perfect example of what we're talking about.
Yeah, and it's based off a true story.
Yeah, exactly. So, that's the point. Yeah.
So, wake up, America.
Yeah.
A little stop stereotyping dads.
Yeah.
Just because it's a man does not mean anything.
Don't get me wrong. We are aware that statistically, like, the dad leaves more than the mom, but, like, not all the time. I'm just saying statistics.
If we go there with the statistics, too, more often than not, a lot of children do suffer abuse from mothers.
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I do know where that's happened.
Yeah, I don't feel comfortable talking about that either.
Yeah. But that really was one of the best parts, I would say, about this movie is that
he's a great dad.
Yeah, he kills it. And you feel with each cutscene and kind of the montages, you really feel the connection between them.
Mm-hmm.
You really get the sense that it's so unfortunate to him, but he's
like, well, this is what I have to do. And he seems fine with it, you know?
Yeah, and in a way, I think it brings his character a lot more growth.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it gives him a lot more to do and gives him more of a purpose. And I feel like that is one of the things that's supposed to be implied in this movie, is that because these people are all prisoners, how does society look on people who have been locked up? They look at them as useless, which is not true.
No.
Everybody has done something in their life or been falsely accused or just been on the scene. That doesn't necessarily mean just because they're locked up somewhere that they've done something. I mean, you're not going to go to
And it also doesn't mean that they can't, even if they have done something, that change is impossible and they can't be better.
And you don't even know what they did. I mean, if somebody got shoplifted and got jail time because you don't know why, for all you know, maybe that movie they shoplifted, it was so that they could have a family movie night for once in their life because they couldn't afford to rent one.
Yeah, who knows?
So,
we never know anyone's story.
Exactly. So
yeah.
And I like that because it's really never implied what everybody did, except for the one,
the older lady
dude and the older lady. There's really never anything implied at all. Mm-hmm. I think there's only one character who we come close to learning a little bit about their past.
Yeah.
And that was the African American gentleman.
Oh yeah.
Tshemi, yeah, played by Andre 3000.
He's great. He's great. He's a good singer. Artist. Yeah. Well, yeah. He was a singer too. Cause he did that song. I don't know the song, but
he did that song. I don't know the song.
Shut up. No.
It's a good name.
He did that song, where it's like shake it like a Polaroid picture. That's him.
I'm hoping the audience will know because I don't.
What? How do I? It's weird that I know it, but okay.
No, but he's
a better actor than he is a singer. I feel like
Tshemi becomes friends with Robert Pattinson's character, who's just titled as Monte. Nobody's really given a last name in this movie.
No, and that's bad. Yeah, it's fine.
And it's fine. I like that choice. Sometimes I like it when you have these dramas like this where nobody's given a last name, because it adds to the unknown of their character and it makes the dynamic work so well.
Mm-hmm. I just remembered. So that song he did. Sorry, that it'll just kill me if you don't go like, oh yeah, it's the one where it's like hey yeah, that one. You'll know it when you hear it. I'll play it on the car ride home. I'll shut up now. Continue with your story.
So, Monte and Tshemi get close. One of the things that you'll notice on the cover of High Life is... Plants, yeah. They have this little garden, which is... that is one of the things I always love in sci-fi, is when they have a little garden, because the greenhouse in all those sci-fi movies, that was one of the things I really loved about The Black Hole.
Mm-hmm.
Little garden set designs, there's something about them that's so amazing and so comforting.
Yeah. Gardens are nice.
So that's something I really did like that they included, and that was part of the visual scenery. The scenery, again, I can't say especially like the space scene. So if any of you have seen Panos Cosmatos' Mandy or Over the Black Rainbow, if you've seen the outdoor shots from Over the Black Rainbow, or like the aesthetic for
The color from
color
the
scheme outside, like when they look in like in Mandy, when Red and Mandy are looking up into the sky, and they have that shot of the sky, and it's got all the stars and kind of the pink indigo looking sky. That's kind of how like the space looked just without the color. It felt like it almost more, I would say almost like a higher resolution of the new Star Wars movies, of Disney Star Wars animation design. It feels like a big budget. That's something that they did well.
Yeah.
I don't know what 8 million euros would be.
Me neither.
In translation to American money. But I could say just because it's $1 million, it's probably got a hefty budget to it.
Yeah, that's fair. And I think the euro is actually valued more than the American dollar.
Currently right now, which, not a surprise.
No.
Apparently this did make, as well, just on a side note, 1.9 million at the box office.
Nice.
Because A24, which is pretty high for an A24 film, considering the fact that they do have limited releases.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, Monte and Tashemi get close. Tashemi reveals a bit about his wife and his son, and told him that he also participated in this program and that he would come back to them. As Willow grows up over time, though, Tashemi starts to sadly lose his mind.
Yeah, it's very sad.
And
I mean, we don't see it personally, but we just...
we
know that he killed himself.
Yeah, one day Monty walks into the garden and saw that he had dug a hole for himself and basically just couldn't take it anymore.
He was like, yeah, I'm going to kill myself, bury me here.
Which, you also have to remember that at this point, they're light years away in the Outer Rim.
Yeah, his kid is 1,000% old.
Yeah, so, and they realize because nobody is responding that there is a good chance that they're never going to come home. And everybody has pretty much gone crazy at the station from cabin fever at this point. And, dealing with all this other stuff and having killed a person. Thank God poor little Willow is not old enough to really process it or see what's going on, as Monte does a really good job at keeping her sheltered.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly, he ends up marrying Tashemi. And then as Willow gets older, that's where the really interesting father-daughter dynamic comes in on the... Because if you guys listen to Prospect, this is a lot of what it felt like, I would say. Even though Pedro Pascal does not play the girl's father in there.
Yeah.
You still get he feels guilty for what happened to her father and is trying to make amends and be like a father figure.
For sure.
To her as well. So that is kind of what goes on here. And you can tell that Monte is kind of cracking a little bit and feels very upset because Willow wants to know more about life. And Monte is doing his very, very best to educate her on what life is like on Earth and kind of what happens and what kind of people are there. He tries to teach her about the different animals that there would be on Earth and all these things. And, and it's one of those dynamics where depending on, your upbringing, obviously I don't think any of us really grew up in space. If you did, awesome. Tell us how it is.
Hopefully awesome.
Well, hopefully. But it is one of those things where he does talk quite a bit to her about, what life is like in, like, any child. And I think that has to do something. There's something to be said about sheltered children.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The more curious they get. And in this case, it's not even about having a rebellion because there is nowhere to go unless you want to die in the vacuum of space.
Exactly.
So she kind of starts to get more ornery, and everybody's pretty much died off at this point.
It's just them two.
Yeah. And somewhere before then, Goth's character, I'm trying to remember her name, Boyce. Boyce doesn't. She takes a very harsh approach towards Willow, for obvious reasons. You should never take it on the child.
No, it's not their fault, obviously. But yeah, I get why she would.
She basically takes one of the escape pods.
She kills someone, and then...
Yeah, kills somebody, and then who was innocent, which I believe is... I'm trying to think of who it was. Was it Nansen?
It's the other white girl. I know that.
Well, there's one named Little Girl in here, too. Which is weird. So it can't be Mink, because that's played by Claire Tran. So it must be Nansen, I'm assuming.
She's, like, skinnier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she kills Nansen, who is a really good character, and then proceeds to up in an escape pod and jettison herself into space to try and go through a black hole.
Which they think might bring them home. Who knows?
Yeah.
It's a black hole. There's theories and theories. But her head explodes.
Yeah. Boyce is not in the stable place, so she just goes, and then she starts to realize when she loses control, starts to lose control of the pod, that, oh shit, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And, there's something to be compared with, because we can say that the black hole concept was a less hellscape version than the black hole.
Oh yeah, your head just explodes in this one. And then later on, we don't know what happens.
Well, and the thing is, you literally see her whole head start to boil and grow, and then... So, if you've ever seen Game of Thrones, spoilers, because I'm going to make this comparison all the time.
Oh, God.
If you've ever seen what happens to Oberyn Martell...
It's... I get
where
what
the
you're
mountain
saying, but nah.
pops his head. No, it's kind of like that, just... If your whole head just went kabloom. Not just part of it. So... That was a choice.
Yeah, that was a decision made.
Then after that, we kind of circle around to where the movie kind of began, into which Monte was putting people into their suits, their spacesuits, and then basically giving them a burial at sea, which in this case would be a burial at space.
Yeah.
And he starts to push him in there. And
he does that at the beginning of the movie.
Yeah, but I think that's a loop around too.
No, I remember he does it to all of them, and then we get flashbacks and see what happened to him.
That's right.
Because when he's looking at all the bodies, he looks at the girl who Boyce killed. And I at least thought, oh, that must be Willow's mom or something. But no, it's the girl that Willow's mom killed.
Yeah. And also, it's kind of like, where are you going to put all those bodies?
Yeah, well, and it's like he had to preserve power, so he turned off the cold storage.
Yeah. Which, also, I wouldn't want to be in a room full of dead bodies anyway, because that's more toxic than anything.
Exactly. Nightmares. Ugh.
Well, no, I was going to say, just physically, the rotting bodies would probably start mold spores and other stuff.
Well, they're frozen.
Okay. Well, if you had to save power and turned it off and left that room.
Oh, yeah.
Then eventually the decay process will begin.
Eventually, yeah.
Not like you can roll down your window and stick your head out and go, fresh air. But, yeah, then it basically becomes with him, it just becomes down to him and adult Willow. And like we were saying earlier, he tries to teach her everything. The teenage Willow is basically she's played by Jessie Ross, who I think she's new, because the only thing that she's been in was the Frankenstein Chronicles, which had Sean Bean as the title character. It wouldn't surprise me if he died in there.
Wait, let me see. Because I might know this one and I might be able to tell you. But okay, continue.
And then some movie last year called The Third Day. So she's relatively new to the scene. It doesn't say how old she is, but she looks like she could be 15 or 16. It's a little bit smaller. She did a very good job in the role. Wouldn't you agree? I think for the scenes.
Oh, I do know this show. Yeah. Yeah.
Monte and Willow, as they're kind of scanning, because that it's become a lot harder on Monte trying to be a single father and trying to literally now maintain every responsibility on the ship. And you can tell that he's starting to lose hope that they'll ever get back.
Mm-hmm.
He has the ideal that they're basically going to die here, and when he goes, what's going to happen to Willow?
Yeah.
So he's trying to teach her, basically, if that time does come, which I would not wish that on anybody. You wouldn't make it.
No.
That what to do and how to do it. They, as Monte's trying to radio in for any sort of contact, they come across pod 7, 6 or 7.
I think so.
And to which the thing there is that they connect to the ship. And Will is very anxious to see if there's anybody on board. And they get in and they see a bunch of dead dogs. I think is the first thing. Well, Willow goes in there because Monte sends her because she's smaller.
Mm-hmm.
And then they learn that they jettisoned a bunch of dogs into space who have just been running around rampantly breeding.
Yeah. And cannibalizing each other.
Yeah, and basically became feral because they've had no food or anything else anymore. And it's never explicitly stated why they were sending these people out, really.
No, it's not.
So it's very bizarre because it's like, okay, no backstory, great. And into which Willow wants to take back one of the little puppies, but Monte says no. And she's like, but I've always wanted a puppy. I want to have something, some companion, and some connection to be closest to Earth as I possibly can.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing. All parents are like, no pets. And what it really comes down to is you can see that Monty wants her to have it, but he also realizes...
It could be dangerous.
It could be disease, because God knows with all those dead dogs and them cannibalizing each other what it could have.
Mm-hmm.
Out of the many dead puppies and live puppies that are in there. Yeah. No animals were harmed during the making of this.
Yay.
To my knowledge. I think they put that in the credits that there aren't animals.
They have to, yeah.
So, it's a matter of conserving power and resources, which he says, and also you don't know if that thing has a disease, which we don't have the materials anymore to deal with that.
You said that already.
So Willow gets upset, but eventually leaves the dog because, what is it? Monte keeps her out until she lets the puppy go, right? If I remember right. He literally locks her out of the ship.
I don't remember that. All I remember is her saying she wants a dog, and then him saying no when they came in. Maybe that happened. I don't know.
It's a little fuzzy towards the end, but yeah. And then basically they eventually just kind of drift, and eventually they basically hit fuck it, as we call it.
Mm-hmm.
And then they take a pod, and finally says whatever happens, happens. And they end up flying into the black hole as well. And we get this really cool kind of trippy shot of outer space.
It looks nice. It's very nice.
Yeah, which is very nice, very well done. And that's kind of where it ends.
Yeah. And there's not a lot else to say, really.
Yeah. If you kind of look up High Life, I'll give you kind of what some people were... Well, I'll do some of the reviews and what people kind of were explaining, because one of the things is what was the meaning, or what the ending of the High Life means. And in High Life space, basically what this says is that it's about the ultimate jail. Space is the ultimate jail.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
In which they have no control over their existence, which is very true. But there really is there's no explanation to anything that happens in this movie.
Yeah.
And that is the part that really kills it as a sci-fi movie too, because not only was it not what it was advertised to be, there's no subplot explaining anything. I could do without learning more about the characters because I feel like that's not important.
Yeah.
It keeps the mysteriousness of why these people are all here and keeps it anonymous of what a lot of these people could have done. We also learned that, too, one of the secrets that the main doctor was hiding is that she murdered her own kids, if I remember right.
Yep.
And she enjoyed it, as well as murdering her husband.
Yeah, and then later she expresses regret for it, to which I'm like, what? You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, she really enjoyed it.
It was weird. It was weird.
And it made no sense, yeah. But yeah, there's no backstory at all. We hear command center, like the command center maybe once, or do we even hear them? I don't even remember.
We don't hear them. I don't ever think.
Okay, so they're just really jettisoned on the outer rim with nothing.
Well, and there's a shot of Earth for a few seconds where it's a guy like trying to talk to, he's trying to like get a court thing set up to talk about it because he's pretty sure that they're just sending these, like, they're using all these resources to send these prisoners to space, basically just to forget about them, you know?
Which becomes pretty evident.
Yeah, but I wish that was explored more, maybe. I would have liked to have known if, like, it happened to more people or not, or, like, what?
And, I mean, we assume, but what really pisses me off, too, is that they didn't explain... really, like, the dogs.
Yeah.
Why were the dogs there? What experiments were these
Too many
doing?
dogs? I don't know, Noah. I don't know, man.
This is, like, the thing. Like, there's so many questions and no answers. In a movie like this, you can't. Especially...
Yeah.
Because, I mean, like...
Like, there's... Like, I understand having, like, some things that you need to read into, but don't have everything required to be read into. You know what I mean?
And not having any payoff for the thing that you planted in the first place.
Exactly.
So that is one thing. One of these these things on these sites says, one of the questions I was asked, and one of the questions I know I for sure asked was, somebody asked, what is the point of High Life, which is just right on Google, and it says, though its plot revolves around sexuality, which, that's
like saying I'm white. Like, we know.
Yeah. And warped forms of human connection, which I don't even see the connection in this movie. What I see is a bunch of people going crazy and raping each other.
Yeah.
High Life is fundamentally a film about being in prison. A speculative fantasy about what happens when a group of humans find that the goals post defining their existence have been moved for them against their will.
This is a fantasy? What twisted man?
Which, again, this is why I say, personally, I kind of don't... It doesn't make me really want to check out what Claire Denis has done.
Personally, yeah. If this is the... Yeah.
This felt like the first American movie, and I'm not insulting the French culture.
Yeah.
But this really felt, personally to me, like a woman with a rape fantasy.
It felt really weird.
There is a better way of making a prison film and making it about... Hell, Green Mile did it better.
Yeah.
And Shawshank Redemption did it better.
Very,
there was a very, very, very different approach that you could have taken to this with no explanation of why they got there. That would have been the biggest thing to start off with. Why are these people here? You didn't need to do a whole opening sequence about it. You could have still set it in space.
Yeah.
But the thing is, there was no explanation. Within the first 10 minutes of Alien, they've already explained in its entirety why they're there, what they're looking for. They're going to LV-426 to collect some sort of specimen that they know nothing about.
Yep.
And is top secret for Weyland-Yutani Corp. That is what they are told. We want to know more. But they've explained enough to the point where it's like, okay, they're in this year, they're going to a planet, they're looking for something, it's a horror film.
Yep.
This just gave none of that.
Nope.
And to tell you guys why it's rated R, to give you sex and nudity, violence and gore, and profanity.
Yep.
The ratings for this on IMDb, Sex and Nudity is definitely a 6. I would argue the difference. I would say that is about an 8 because of the very graphical nature.
Yeah, due to the graphical nature of it, for sure.
Violence and gore, I would say, would be more of a 5, just given some of the brutality moments and the profanity. The profanity, surprisingly, is one of the things that you would want more of, rather than the sexual and nudity elements. That is at a 1, I would agree.
Mm-hmm.
There is a couple fucks here and there, but it really isn't something that they go over the board of like Big Lebowski style.
Right.
To give you guys some of the critic consensus, here's one by Tara McNamara. No matter what anyone might say, there's not one good reason to see High Life, and 1,000 reasons not to. And that's Tara McNamara from Common Sense Media. I kind of agree with that.
Yeah.
Again, this is something that I would have worked if you cut all the sex, rape fantasies, and gave a solid, concrete.
Yeah, there are some good reasons to see this story, but they are far outweighed, I would say, by the negatives.
It sucks.
Yeah.
Because you really see a good movie that should have just really been...
There's a good movie in here somewhere.
And there were so many other ways that you could have made the prison hard. You could have made anything else but the weird sexuality and fantasy box. You could have taken these people just going insane and made it about one guy who's trying to do better because of the sins that he's committed in his past life, and while he knows that he's paying for it with possibly the rest of his life, he's trying to be a better person and ends up having a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
They could have still kept that in there of how she was conceived and left it at that.
Yeah.
And it would have made for a captivating story. And in that case, you really wouldn't have even had to explain. Because, I mean, that is one thing that Alien ever did. I don't think Alien 3 ever really went too deep into what this prison was, really.
Right.
And Prospect didn't go into what kind of life or what year, really, that it was taking place. But they made such a captivating story around it that it didn't really need to be. It's one of those things that could be left to the imagination and is open-ended for a sequel.
Yeah.
This doesn't really warrant me to want to see a sequel.
Right.
Like, The Black Hole was not that good of a movie. It was very enjoyable, but it was way too ambitious and way too out there for what it was trying to do. And it became predictable and sloppy.
Yeah.
And then, while also trying to cater to kids as a PG movie, which should have been PG-13, definitely for the horrific elements, especially towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
They were setting it up to make a sci-fi franchise to rival Star Wars in 79, but Disney did not stick the landing. But I would be more prone to want to see a Black Hole follow-up even now than I probably would be to want to see a High Life Part 2.
Yeah.
And like
That's
I said,
sure.
really sucks because I really like the Joel Ellie concept here that they were working with. As a contemplative and unsettling, this is from Sandy Schaefer from Screen Rant. A contemplative and blah, I can't English. As contemplative and unsettling as it is, High Life struggles to develop its bleak sci-fi vision into an engaging and cohesive piece of cinema.
Mm-hmm.
This comes from Peter Travis at the Rolling Stone. With Dennis, there's always more that meets the prism of snap judgments. Let the movie mess with your head.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, that are on here, they're mainly saying that, like, they understand what's going on, but the people who gave it 5 stars are also just popping out the portrayal of humans and the portrayal of the acting and the visualness of it. They're not really talking about the story.
Mm-hmm.
They're just talking about the message. And this, with an audience rating summary, sits at approximately 2.5 stars out of 303 ratings. It looks like this movie was released in France first, November 7th, 2018. What would you rate this as a whole?
This High Life.
I know it's really hard with
Yeah.
going in not knowing because I don't know if you watched the trailer like I did.
I didn't watch the trailer. I think I might have watched the trailer, actually. I know I didn't see... And I know it didn't honestly show what the heck happens. I feel like... somewhere in between the realm of, like, C- and D+. Again, like, the parts I really like, but it's just they're very few and far between the parts that gross me out, you know what I mean?
Yeah. It's really night and day to get to those...
Yeah, it's very...
scenes. It did feel much longer, which I kind of feel disappointed about.
Yeah.
Because it did have Robert Pattinson, who did a very killer job. And it was an hour and 53 minutes. I would have never felt that.
No.
I thought I was watching a 2.5 hour movie.
Yeah, I thought I was watching an epic.
So, I can't say personally that I recommend this to anybody.
No.
Unfortunately.
Which is a bummer.
And I know that we really stretched out our time for this to make it an hour, and hopefully you guys are okay with that. But I did want to really dig deep in, because I feel like we do have to do those movies once in a while that have the potential, and also it gives you guys something to compare to. And it also gives you guys kind of the idea of what movies are before you see them. And if you're like me, and some of those movies like Martyrs that are just too fucked up to see visually, to handle, or like the movie Hostel, which is worse than Saw, surprisingly, in terms of brutality and realism. It is nice to kind of just hear what people's thoughts are on it, or a beat by beat. We didn't want to do beat by beat for obvious reasons that we stated at the beginning. But I will say that the music in there was pretty decent. It did set a tone. It was composed by Stuart A. Staples, and the costume design was by Judy Shrewsbury. Still kudos to everybody who worked on this film. You did create a great sci-fi atmosphere. That is something that I can't stress enough, and that needs to also be noted, that these guys did very well with creating an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And making it feel beautiful in space, and made some amazing CGI and background animations for space. The black hole was very cool, getting that trippy feel of what it's like to be in space.
Yeah. And
just a lot of the lighting, like when they find the dogs, is really cool too. Because it's basically in a whole station inhabited by dogs, and the power's going out, and you're wondering how all these dogs are still alive, and it's kind of a nightmare fueled area. So, but I think that's all we really have for High Life. Let us know what you guys think. It does have some beautiful cinematography.
Yeah, visually great movie, but
But I think that's all I'm going to say about it.
Me too.
So, thank you all for listening. Hopefully this was I know it's a bonus episode, but hopefully it wasn't too let down, too much of a bummer for you guys. But, yeah.
He's been no sweeter.
He's been Nathaniel Shoemaker.
This has been Film Nerds Hour.
We'll see y'all later. So long.